Hi, everybody. David Meilan, Director of Investor Relations with Nighthawk Equity here. Thanks so much for joining. As many of you know, Nighthawk currently owns properties in 5 different markets spread across the southeastern United States, most particularly focusing in on Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Huntsville, Alabama. Today, what we want to do is we want to discuss a new region, the North Carolina markets, specifically the metro areas of Raleigh, Durham, as well as Charlotte. As always, we have our guest here, Drew Kniffin, president of Nighthawk. Drew, can you help us break down some of the positive qualities of these markets?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, David, for having me here today. There's a lot of good things to like about the Carolina markets. And just right now, I'm going to focus on Raleigh, Charlotte, and Durham. So these markets all have a lot of things going for them. Raleigh's got a huge population boom expected in the next 10 years. They are an industry leader in tech jobs, and they were ranked #1 for tech jobs by Glassdoor. Rent increases have been strong there. So we're seeing that influx of population work to the advantage of landlords, and yet it's still rated as one of the most affordable big cities in the U.S. Charlotte, people know Charlotte. Charlotte's the biggest city in Carolinas. It's also growing quickly. It's the 5th fastest growing city in the nation, and a huge percentage of its population are young, between 20 and 39. So they're in that prime rental population that we like and look for so much. It's also a big banking sector or city in Charlotte. So they got a lot of banking and high paying jobs going on there in Charlotte too. And then lastly, Durham, again, rents increasing quickly there. Unemployment is below the national average. And the increases for 1 and 2 bedrooms have been significantly higher in Durham than in the rest of the country on an annual basis. So just a few things right there on those cities. You know, we could go on for a long time, but that's just a good summary of some of the neat things happening in Carolina.
Yeah, Drew, these sound like really tremendous markets with a lot of opportunity for growth there. Now, that brings up the question, why do you feel that Nighthawk is particularly well equipped to thrive in these markets? On top of that, do you think investors should expect Nighthawk to kind of expand into those markets anytime soon?
Yeah, well, obviously we're looking at it, right? We wouldn't be sort of sharing these great numbers unless we thought there was potential there. Right, so we are always looking for a place that has rent growth, population growth, and job growth. And so Carolina meets those metrics. And when you have that, you have the opportunity for value add plays where you can force the appreciation on the properties. So when you already have good, just baseline growth, and then you can layer on top of that forced growth, that's a fantastic place. Carolina meets that bullseye for us. On top of that, the vendors that we've used so successfully and that we've built good relationships with, whether it's our property managers or our general contractors, they can reach into the Carolinas. It's not too far from their headquarters, whether their headquarters is in Alabama or their headquarters is in Tennessee. Carolina is an adjacent market. So we can take that same playbook for success that we've done so many times in Huntsville, in Atlanta, and layer that into Carolina and have the reward potential for appreciation without increased risk for going into a new market because so many of those vendors are the same.
Now, I mentioned earlier, Drew, that we are kind of primarily focused on 2 specific markets right now, Atlanta as well as Huntsville. I think our last 6 or so deals have been in those 2 markets. With that in mind, what's the benefit to branching out to the North Carolina markets that we discussed when we're already comfortable and familiar with markets that we're currently in and experiencing success in?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Now, why not just stick with those 2 markets? And the answer is because we want to offer the greatest potential for good investments for our investor base, right? And so with Atlanta, you run the risk of that market being oversaturated or prices just going up to a price point at which it no longer makes sense to our investors. And if we were fully committed only to Atlanta, then we'd have to compete in that frenzy when the numbers no longer make sense. So we want to be able to go into other markets that potentially don't have that same crush of investors going into those markets. We only be able to look at other places. And the other reason is because I spoke to 2 investors in our latest deal who said, I love this deal. The numbers all make sense. I like it. I know you guys do well there, but I've already put $200,000, $300,000 to work in the Atlanta market. And so I want to diversify. I want to have my investments in the Atlanta market, but I also want to have them in another strong growing market. And so if you can have Carolina in that mix, it might make sense, for investors who all want to do another deal. They don't want all of their money to be in the same city.
All right. Thanks so much, Drew. To wrap things up, if you're a potential investor and you're interested in hearing more about Nighthawk's opportunities and have not already scheduled a call with me, please feel free to do so. What this will do is this will put you on our deal ready investor list, which means we'll be automatically notifying you about any additional opportunities that do pop up in the near future. In order to schedule a call with me, please shoot me an email at david@nighthawkequity.com. And I look forward to scheduling a call with you. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.